was your first encounter with Shakespeare?
My first encounter with Shakespeare, that's a really good question. I remember very vividly. My mum took me to see a production of Macbeth called Shakespeare for Kids.
Call it something different in New Zealand, but it's year 8. And we went on a school trip to watch A Midsummer Night's Dream.
And so it was like a big trip. And I remember the porter scene. I was crying with laughter. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life.
My peers, my friends were there. It was a huge night out, huge afternoon out.
Me and my brothers went home and we reenacted that porter scene. I must have been about 9, I think. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Miranda and I'm currently a junior in high school. What you just saw was my teachers explaining their first encounters with Shakespeare. As a literature enthusiast, I've always been passionate about the life and works of her favorite bard, wordsmith, storyteller, one of the most captivating figures of English literature and drama. When Macbeth was taught in 10th grade, I was enthralled, particularly with the character of Lady Macbeth. The dignity, ruthlessness, and even eventual delirium of this matriarchal figure who plotted the murder of the king fascinated me. Interpretive possibilities around Lady Macbeth seemed infinite. I spent countless hours browsing academic articles, reading and rereading the play, tapping away to iambs and trochees as I tried to dissect her motives, evil, downfall. But what I also realized at the time was that not all of my friends in class shared my excitement for Shakespeare. In fact, some of us didn't quite get it.
Well, I met him hundreds of years ago. I think when I was at school, I wasn't really a very good student. One time I thought I wanted to study drama, and so I had some auditions for like a drama school. I chose something from The Merchant of Venice. I still remember parts of it because you had to memorize it all for the audition, but I'm not really sure I understood it very well. And
我是2024届来自中国教的 A.E 学生，我叫 Maxwell。来自我朋友的邀请，因为他们需要一个摄影，然后来辅助灯光啊什么的，然后正好我学电影，所以的话，我对于这方面比较了解。我第一次阅读莎士比亚是在生活教 G1的时候，因为那是一个就是老师强制让我们读的东西，然后它也是在我们考试的 syllabus 上面，所以我记得当时那个文章叫 Macbeth， 对，麦克白。
那你当时喜欢吗？
就是实话实说，我不是很喜欢莎士比亚的文学。我觉得一部分原因是因为我的文学功底还不是很强，就有时候读的时候还是有点困难的。然后再加上Shakespeare 它本身是一个比较古老的作品，它的文学的就它的语言是跟现在有些差别，所以的话呢，读起来又会加上一点困难。
After talking to more friends about their disinclination towards Shakespeare, I realized that Maxwell's concerns were shared by many of us. Classes were filled with abnormal silence and frowns, and I wanted to help. I concluded some general difficulties with understanding Shakespeare. First of all, his language is difficult and archaic. His story is a bit too far away from the 21st century, and frankly, why should a 16, 17-year-old non-native speaker care? How do I resolve this? To answer this question, I asked more questions.
我是 Lily 于乐琪，然后我是今年16岁，然后是国际高中的一名学生，然后也算是半个文学爱好者吧。这个项目的主创人来邀请我，就是一起来，因为我觉得我们都是第一是对莎剧都很有感悟，然后第二是对麦克白这个剧非常喜欢，然后呢，对麦克白夫人这个角色非常情有独钟。我之前看彼得·布鲁克有一本书，讲戏剧分4种不同的戏剧，然后有一个非常重要的元素就是戏剧它要是鲜活的，但是戏剧它在就是一个学校的课程，你很难去带着全班甚至全年级一起去看一个真正鲜活的戏剧。
At this point in time, my vision was clear. I concluded that the problem lies in the absence of theater itself when texts are our only gateway to learning. Shakespeare is meant to be acted out by actors, in costume, with props, lights, movement. He is not a canonical, formidable classic, but to his contemporary audience, entertainment, show business. For my community, who didn't grow up near Shakespeare's Globe or listen to Tudor stories, what we needed to access Shakespeare's magic was to see it happen on stage, to visualize. So I devised a project called Staging Shakespeare. 小组开会第一次，9月21号，Take 1 Action. I talked to Maxwell and Lily, both of whom you've met, and built a group chat of 3. We talked some more, and started a Google Drive. We decided that we want to focus on the staging aspect and experiment with universal Shakespearean themes through the presentation of theatricality, actors' body language, costuming, makeup, stage lighting, arrangements, movements, and even photo editing technology in the production stage. We will approach this in the mode of literary analysis, situating interpretations within broadly discussed topics of the modern world. Without much hesitation, we selected Lady Macbeth. Her unique character elicits discussions about gender fluidity, violence, distorted power structures, and so on. The finished product will be a series of photographs that capture crucial moments of Shakespearean stage. With this in mind, we wrote project proposals, sent around 50,000 emails to different teachers pitching our plan, applied for funding, waited for funding, got approved, then applied for using our school theater, didn't get approved at first, eventually got approved. Eventually, we successfully booked the theater, and there it was, filming day. Action. So these are our props. Lady Macbeth's initial appearance is witch-like, evil, ruthless, scheming, on the brink of madness. We see her plotting the murder of Duncan, emasculating Macbeth, manipulating him into following her plan. But in Act 2, we also witness her vulnerability. She says, "Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it," as a reason why she doesn't personally murder Duncan. This revelation of her humanity prompts us to think about the nature of her character. Is she inherently evil, or brought to psychological destruction by external events and thus turned against humanity? For every scene, there's a full shot, and then, yes, I want the light to cast down her face.
Overhead.
Yes. This is our first scene that I designed. In our first scene, Lady Macbeth is a mother. It is insinuated in the play that Lady Macbeth has lost a child. I have given suck and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. We bring this past memory to life in these pictures. This is our first scene that I designed. This is a twist on the poison milk imagery in the original text. So we're gonna have bottles on the left side and then bottles on the other side. We'll have milk on one side and gall on the other side. And there's also this dead baby that Lady Macbeth had, but he died. So this will be interesting because she is going to sit in the middle of these bottles, and the audience never gets to see which side she picks.
再往右，往右很多。
往我右移坐，这是痛苦表情。So yeah， 再往这边一点，我可以停。
可以。
The cruel Lady Macbeth is not inherently good or evil, but pushed to her psychological tumult by trauma, the death of her child. Einstein at some point in his life. When analyzing the question of Lady Macbeth's identity, we often see an internal warfare between good and evil. In our second scene, we envision Lady Macbeth in a white dress, symbolizing innocence. If this side does exist, it succumbs to her evil self, perhaps voluntarily, in a crucifixion.
好酷。
也不是不行。
但是
你用十字架影子是吧？对。十字架影子可以，你可以拿那个灯，把幕布降下来，然后呢，你直接把那个十字架放到前面。
那我们最后做这件事情吗？要 P 上去才是。
不用 P， 你直接投影。
OK， 那直接来。OK。
直接来。
What does she atone for? Her vicious ego she can no longer control? The passivity and weakness of her innocent self? Metal chains are a symbol of imprisonment. We see her constantly suppressing her innocent self, compunctious visitings of nature, guilt, and the voice of her conscience. She thirsts for direst cruelty. Childhood, in juxtaposition with motherhood previously shown, is often associated with innocence. We see remnants of Lady Macbeth's childhood scattered beneath her feet. She falls from the crucifix. Was there an attempt to break free of these chains? Has her innocence resisted? Will she resurrect? We know that Lady Macbeth's desire to alter her sex is not purely psychological, but biological. Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall. In our third scene, we envision her as a surgeon, in the modern day, in a blue unisex surgical gown that obscures all her feminine features. She emerges with a sinister smile, the shadow of a crown looming in her path. Macbeth's famous dagger scene, when he sees the apparition of a dagger in delirium, a product of his ambition-filled, heat-oppressed brain. Is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle turned toward my hand? In our interpretation of Lady Macbeth as surgeon, she reenacts Macbeth's famous dagger scene. In heightened ambition for power and obsession with masculinity, we project the dagger to where it belongs, before the eyes of the true orchestrator. Lady Macbeth becomes Macbeth. The white cloth on the operating table represents her past innocent self, fallen from the crucifix and brought beneath her surgeon's scalpel. However, just as she tries to kill her innocence, every remnant of her inner child, her maternal identity, intervenes.
哦，你要从这儿来一个人，然后拍他当前景是吧？
对。
那确实是这样。
你那样跪趴在地上，然后蹲着。对，没错。不要把露性的鞋子把那脚瘪下去，跪趴在地上，然后蹲着。对。The pictures were taken, we started building a website, setting up discussion forums, and I started to see my vision come together. But when I stated and restated my mission statement, started planning exhibitions for our pictures, I realized I wasn't exactly assured about our cause.
Yeah, I suppose you'd have to think about what are your intentions? Why have we chosen a particular play, for example? You know, what is it about that play that we think is going to be relevant or interesting to an audience?
What is our intention beyond helping my peers understand Macbeth and improving their Macbeth essay grades? What is the point of convincing high schoolers, even younger children, into liking something they might not ever come across ever again once they graduate? The project was devised in a whirlwind, with eager intentions to research create new interpretations, create this project of my favorite character. But how do we justify? Where lies the value of us spending all this time writing and rewriting proposals, sending countless emails, and filming this documentary about a 16th century, long dead white man? Why is Shakespeare relevant? Why is Shakespeare education necessary?
Shakespeare 是 necessary。我觉得，那其实这样说的话，很难论证为什么文学本身是 necessary 的。但是，我觉得可能就，莎士比亚他的剧，我觉得他是对于文学来说，它是一种革新，就是在他之前，至少大部分英国剧作家，他们的剧本都是写给上层阶级看的，就是包括里面，就比如说拿马洛的剧来讲的话，马洛的剧里面有非常多拉丁语的 reference， 然后他作为一个剑桥毕业生，他非常喜欢 show off 他的知识，但是剧作家的话，他写的东西对于每一个人来说都是平易近人的，就是不管是当时的英国的农民，或者是说就是普通的工人，他们都可以去环球剧院去一起看莎剧。所以说，莎剧它其实是把文学这个东西从一个阶级特有的这种宝藏变成了就是分享给整个社会、整个世界的一种东西，就是它是开放性。
Flute, as you've heard of the magic flute, Mozart, I believe. At the time, that was some of the most rebellious music to come out. And then I say, well, what do you listen to nowadays? And of course, there's all sorts of varietal suggestions that come forward. But it gets a discussion going about how something that can seem like one thing really isn't. And at the end of the day, a lot of true classical music from centuries ago is why we have the music today. It's all come from somewhere. It doesn't just pop out of nothingness. And so it's the same with stories, movies, books, videos, series, whatever we might be engaged with today as people. It's come from somewhere.
The thing about why Shakespeare has lasted so long or is still going, what's the reason behind it, is that he deals with, universal, we call it universal problems, really, and situations that people have. Falling in love or betrayal or murder, or it's all about human relationships. Okay, Macbeth was set in the 12th century in Scotland, but actually, we can look around at some world leaders today and we could say, here's an ambitious person, and it seems like they're prepared to do this and this thing, and so it's not as though people have really changed that much.
Shakespeare is just one of these wonderful things where we can be really free. You can do a traditional rendering of Shakespeare. I went to the Globe and saw a very traditional Taming of the Shrew, for example, but then I also went back the next month and watched Twelfth Night, which had a fabulous drag queen called Dark Chocolat on stage, and it was all like glitz, and it's just, there are so many different ways to kind of approach Shakespeare.
During our filming process, I reached out to Tian, the director of William and I, a biographical play about Shakespeare that received both critical and popular attention here in China. Seeing that he has the same intention about popularizing Shakespeare and his literature, I reached out to him over Weibo, a Chinese social media platform, expressing my admiration, not expecting a reply. Much to my surprise, he responded, and was gracious enough to hop on a phone call for an hour in which we talked about my project, staging Shakespeare. He told me about his involvement in Shakespeare in China, the same difficulties he faced in justifying his relevance and reaching the Chinese audience, breaking down stereotypes built over time. Shakespeare's humor lost in translation, blonde, light-skinned Western actors speaking in ridiculous accents and telling stories alien to our own history. He told me about his first encounter with Shakespeare as a child, through text, enthralled with the complexity and love-hate in Julius Caesar, eventually embarking on his own journey to discover. He talked about the necessity of literature for children and young people. I realized that the relevance of Shakespeare lies in the relevance of literature. literature as a reflection of human condition. What is human condition? Some people can read hatred. Some people can bear pain. Their environment may be turbulent, their motives obscured by desire, their actions hampered, and their results unsatisfactory. In Lady Macbeth's story as anti-hero, in her cruelty and evilness, we uncover humanity as we read. We see her haunted by her own conscience. We see her winning and losing the war with herself, war of moral principle, war of goodness. In Shakespeare and in literature, we see and feel seen. Through his complex characters, we learn, reflect, and fall in love. I still can't tell you that Shakespeare is relevant and necessary, and it's absolutely essential that you love his literature like I do. But what I can't tell you, and I say this with confidence, is that you deserve Shakespeare. Children deserve Shakespeare. We all deserve to read him, ponder, rejoice in the drama and humanity of it. We all deserve a ticket to his texts, if not the globe.